The journey begins at the narrow gate. The journey, Jesus beckons me to roam. The journey, where the path is straight. The journey takes me home. The journey takes me home.
Good morning and welcome back to The Journey. So glad you joined me this morning. Today we have on our whatever it is, Dan Washburn, the man behind the music and usually the man behind all of the controls. Yeah. So what's happening is nobody's controlling this today.
We're out of control.
We are on. This could be dangerous. You might have to go running over there.
Maybe.
You certainly don't want me going running
this
over. Yeah. If you see me running over there, you better tackle me because I'm just going the wrong direction. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you and I get to sit down and do this.
Yeah.
This is good. Yeah. We got to talk a little bit about your journey, and I'm excited for everybody to hear your journey. And of course, our journey is all about who Jesus is in our life, and how I keep saying I got to stop doing that. Our journey in life and how Jesus really has walked with us. So start us off with your journey.
Well, I was born in 1957 in Illinois, Springfield, Illinois, the land of Lincoln. And it was a cold December time.
That sounds like a start of a book.
Yeah.
A cold, wintry time.
And I remember none of that. They moved to Oregon when I was 18 months. And we lived in Central Point near Medford until about I was in halfway through third grade. We moved up in December again.
You got a thing for winter.
And moved up here. And we lived out in off the old Belfair Highway in Bear Creek. And my grandfather had a house there. And then we got a itty bitty trailer and moved up to property that Mom and Dad had on Tiger Lake, and Dad built the house. And
so you moved in winter into a trailer.
Yeah.
Wow, that would have been a challenge.
Yeah, but down in Oregon, when we were there, we lived in the Little Red House.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, with Little Red Riding Hood.
Well, yeah. My sisters. I think my sisters were born just before we moved there, and then they I don't remember how Mom and Dad ended up going to church. I think they talked to the pastor, had maybe gone door to door or something. I can't remember. It was a pretty small town, so they started going to church and they became Christians, and then of course I took along and went to Sunday school, and my neighbor at the time was Robert, and he was 6 years old. I was 4.
Oh, so yeah.
And Robert knew everything.
Well, sure. I mean,
he's so
6.
smart.
I mean,
yeah. But so I and I don't remember the conversation, but he invited me to accept Christ, and I did. And so that was
the start.
It was a start. I don't remember, being a great epiphany or anything else, but it set the course for my life anyway.
I love that. You're 4 years old.
Yeah.
And sounds like a great deal. I'll
receive Jesus. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to miss out.
Right.
And so then we lived down Oregon until third grade, and moved up here and went to school at North Mason, and
you did?
Yeah, all the way through my graduation, and my we went to a church in Bremerton on 6th Street. It was the Christian Missionary Alliance Church there on 6th Street before they moved, but that was after I'd already grown and gone.
Right.
And but we lived out in the woods. There wasn't anybody around much, and I played guitar.
Yeah, right.
Rode my bike, went to the lake.
Yeah.
Didn't have computers or phones or anything like that. And so I learned to get along on my own and do little things.
You and Huck Finn.
Yeah, and I had a church life. We went to church morning and evening on Sunday, and then on Wednesday for prayer meeting. And
that was the schedule, right?
Yeah, and I think there was a choir practice in there. I was in choir. And
oh, really?
My cousins, my mom had 2 sisters, and so we were all real close with them, and my grandma and grandpa here. And so we were all very musical, so we played guitars and flutes and clarinets and sang and learned harmonies and stuff there. And then, of course, the choir, and I sung choir in school as well. And actually did some performing solo stuff.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
wow.
for the mother-daughter tea and
stuff
that's like
great.
that. Yeah, so
wow.
So it was good, and I in high school, I guess junior high and high school, I played for the youth group, so I led the songs and stuff.
You've been song leading for a long
I've
time.
been song leading for a long time, yeah. And I had planned to go to seminary after school and become a involved in choir and all of that.
A music pastor kind of thing.
Yeah. That was the thing that was in my head. And I had written a bunch of songs, and I look at them now and I'm thinking, wow. Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not.
I don't remember the tunes, or the chords even, and
and you wondered what your 17, 16-year-old self was thinking?
Yeah. But I had thought, to put pictures up behind them so that I could, display but MTV stole my idea, so.
Man.
But then I was going to use a slide projector, but
that would have been fun. Man, you were way ahead. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Huh. You were way ahead. You were into music and technology even then.
Yeah, it wasn't much technology, but
no, but still,
what there was, I was going to use it.
Yeah. Huh.
So I had a pretty Christ-centered life. When I didn't tell you this, but I'm not going off the tracks, I promise.
Don't make me run back there and, switch us off.
No, when I was 17, I was practicing the songs for the youth group and for choir, and we had sold the house, and Dad sold the house on the lake, and we were in a trailer home, and it was too small for Mom, Dad, my 2 sisters, and I.
Sure. Yeah.
So Dad got a little travel trailer.
Oh yeah.
And it was had a bed, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And so I was out there and I was singing, and it was right along North Shore Road for North Shore of the Hood Canal.
Right.
And you could hear cars coming from a long way off, and so I'm playing, and I kind of hear the sound of the car or something, and it just never got closer, and I'm still hearing the sound, so I stopped, and I'm hearing the sound, and I went outside, and I didn't hear anything. and it was quiet. And then I went back in, and I'm hearing the sound, and then I knew that it was the sound of the wind. I was being filled with the Spirit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that was really powerful. I raced over to the mirror and looked to see if I had, tongues of flame.
Tongues of yeah.
No.
No tongues of fire, but
but that was an experience. But
wow, yes. Huh.
Yeah, that later on in my life, it confirmed my belief in
It
God.
brought you home, like the theme song says.
Yeah.
I mean, in a different sense than the theme song. I mean,
yeah. So then after school, I started working, and I worked at a Payless, and I worked at a nursing home.
Oh, really?
I was Dan the van man.
Okay.
I drove the van, and I did janitor stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was a great time. I loved that job, and but
I'm guessing they loved you too, to give you the name Dan the van man.
They did. And then I all through my childhood, and it was my perception of what the church told me,
right.
that anybody outside the church was dark and evil, and
right.
And I just accepted that for face value, even though I went to school with people that were
right
outside the church. That just never occurred to me. But once I started out working, and I found that there were nice people out there who didn't go to church, didn't believe in God, but they were nice people.
Right, sure.
And so I decided that I didn't believe any of it. It was all a lie.
You've been deceived.
I've been, That was the deceiving voice, though.
Right, sure. Yes.
So I decided I'm not going to seminary. I didn't go to school.
Wow.
I didn't want to do any of that, and but I got a job in the shipyard.
Okay.
As an electrician, came in as a helper trainee, and then I got on to the apprenticeship, and so went through that for 4 years, and then I worked as a journeyman for another 4.
Wow.
Until I became a progressman.
Okay.
And in the progress code, that you kind of troubleshoot things that are going wrong with the project. If they can't get some material, or if we took care of the work control and the discrepancy reports and all of that stuff, so we kept track of all these things.
Yeah.
And it was a great job. I enjoyed it because I could go and see all the different trades and see what their work is. And most people, if you start asking about their trade, they light up, and they're telling they're passionate about that.
Yeah, right.
So I learned a lot of different trade things, from people, and it was a very interesting job. And but they also had a lot of we joked about it, touchy-feely classes,
Oh, okay.
And
get in touch with yourself.
And stress management, and this management, and that management. But they all had an effect on me that made me remember my Christian roots. And so when I turned 30, which I was a couple of years into the apprenticeship, or I was a couple of years into the progress code, I had kind of a crisis of mortality. I was thinking about, I'm getting closer to the other end of life, and where am I going? What have I done? And what do I believe? And I at that point, I remembered my experience of being 17 and being filled with the Spirit, I just couldn't deny that I didn't believe in God anymore.
Right.
You know, I believed.
You couldn't run anymore.
I couldn't run anymore. He had me boxed in.
Right. Isn't that interesting? Huh?
Well, I answered the call. I guess I came to Him.
Right.
And turned to Him. And so I did that, and I prayed about that, and I started going to church, and I had gotten married.
I was gonna back you up if you didn't get there, but you got there.
Back in 1977.
So you were 19 when you were married.
I was 19, yeah, and we'd known each other 3 months, and we decided, well, she was not a Christian, and that did not go well with my parents.
No, I suppose.
And so we had moved out together, and that didn't go well with her parents.
Right.
We were both the oldest of the family, so
right.
it was. We thought we'd put things back together by just getting married.
Right.
Well, yeah. So
yeah,
that still left God out, and but when I came back to the God and rededicated my life to Him, I started going to church, and my wife went with me, and we went to a group, and a small group, and that was good, but it didn't last. The church kind of fell apart.
Oh, okay.
We were meeting in a school, and it just things just didn't gel.
Didn't go.
So so they stopped, and we stopped. And
you had kids at this time too, right?
Yeah. And in '79, we had my oldest, and then in '84. My youngest,
two sons.
2 boys, yeah, 2 boys, and they each have 2
as
well, yeah.
Well, it seems to be the way things go.
Yeah. One lives in Maryland, and the other one lives in Port Orchard, and so we'd had a little place in town in Bremerton. And that we rent to own kind of thing, and then we found a piece of property out in Port Orchard, and had been paying towards it for a number of years until we could get out there.
Right.
And so we finally did that, and lived there for 19 years, and built quite a place, but we tried different churches on and off, and it was very difficult. And eventually, my wife didn't want to go to church, and didn't want me to go to church. So that was a very, very hard thing.
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And but as we know, it didn't work out. So we went separate ways.
Right, and you had said when we talked that that was kind of became the big issue.
Yeah.
Is you said, look, in a sense, I'm not, if I'm putting wrong words in your mouth, correct me, but in a sense, I'm following Christ, and I'm going to go to church and do this. And your wife kind of said, well, I'm not, and I don't want you to. And
yeah. So I'd go to church, and all I'd get would be pain, and and it's hard to get involved as a married person. That your partner doesn't go, then you're not a single, you're not part of the marrieds because you're not a couple going, and it kind of leaves you out in the void, and it's very hard to continue that. And but I did. I kept going to.
I was going to say that's amazing that you did. Really, I mean, it's and it probably really that experience you had when you were 17. You probably kept looking back at that and saying, "No, that was real." So I can't deny this.
It's kind of like bedrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because if you grew up in Christian Missionary Alliance, and you probably wouldn't know this, but some of the terminology they use is we have this crisis experience.
Oh,
And we all look back to our crisis experience and go, yeah, I know.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah. It was wild. So then I continued working in the shipyard, and I went up to and when I was towards the end of my progress career, the computers were coming into the
Right.
shipyard, and I was interested in all of that, and we had a little Fox Pro program that helped us keep track of work control documents and
Right.
discrepancy reports.
And everybody out there's going, what?
Yeah.
What's he talking about? Just go with it.
So I started talking to the other progressman that programmed all of this stuff, and he showed me the code and showed me what it did, and I kind of got the hang of it, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like looking at electronic schematics, you know.
Oh,
and to me, it's a parallel, but
Sure.
And so I took to it, and I
Yeah.
started doing that in Excel programming, and we had a cost and schedule control system that managed or it monitored the progress, the performance of the work going on,
Right.
based on budgets and spending and schedule.
Yeah.
And so all of that input, you could tell if you were over cost.
Sounds very tiresome to me.
Yeah, it's just exciting.
See, this is why you were our worship and media director. I mean, you do both so well. I mean, yeah.
So at the time, we just got a network going in the shipyard, and they brought in this little PC.
Oh.
It was. I don't remember how much memory it had, but it wasn't much.
No, probably
it
not.
barely handled what it was supposed to do. But they would make reports, and literally pallet loads of reports went out every week.
Wow.
And this put it online for everyone, and they still printed them, but
Well,
you know,
yeah.
but there wasn't as much paper. So it was online, and I helped bring that in, and I set up because it didn't always run. There was a lot of interfaces and things that wouldn't happen, and I'd have to go in the middle of the night and
Oh, wow.
fix it. And
Kind of like our soundboard at the church.
yeah. That's a dream.
That's great.
But
You don't look very dreamy sometimes when you're back there. Middle of the day trying to figure it out.
so I did programming and things for the business office, and helped them get reports out of different places. And in fact, the IT people would come and grumble because I had taken data out that they didn't think I should have been able to get to.
That's great.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So my boss then, I was doing a lot of training on performance measurement, and I would train managers and everybody from a foreman to an admiral. So we had a lot of people come through.
Yeah.
And so that was a great experience, and just getting up in front of people when training and doing that. And so my boss came to me and said, "Hey, how about you go to school and do IT stuff?" And I said, "You're trying to get rid of me?"
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think it was. No. So I did that, and I took a class a quarter, and went through and got a bunch of programming stuff under my belt. And
So now you were dangerous.
yeah, so we had a local applications branch that developed homegrown programs that helped people do their job, and keep track of things. But as soon as I got over there, the Navy said, "You know what? We're not going to do local apps anymore."
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wow.
we're going to go all corporate. If you have something you want, then let us know, and we'll put it in the corporate app. And
Wow.
so
That left you going.
I had
okay.
no job. So I had met a guy, my boss, Terry Holm. He was an AFC rep when I was in the business office, and he was oversight for the performance measurement and forecasting and stuff like that. And so I had met him and talked with him several times. He was a Christian guy, and so we got along great.
Yeah.
And he said, I called him up and I said, "Hey, you got to get me out of here."
Yeah.
Because we were doing paperwork for security and stuff.
Oh,
it was
boy.
terrible. And so he happened to be working for the branch of the Navy that did the programming for the performance measurement system that I was familiar with. So I became a project manager and worked from home and for another command for the rest of my career.
Wow.
So that worked out pretty well. But I learned a lot of different things in the shipyard, just mechanical programming.
Right.
And through that time, I didn't perform a lot.
I was wondering where your music.
Yeah. Well, when I was probably 21, I was in a little band.
Okay.
And in fact, the guy that runs the band I'm in now, he was the bass player.
Oh, really?
And his brother the drummer, and so they're both in the band now.
Huh. Wow.
So it kind of came back around.
Yeah. And did you ever know Scott Frisbee and his band?
No.
That would have been fun if you guys knew each other back then.
No,
it would have been interesting.
So we played. I mean, the band played 4 times and we were done. And, yeah, it kind of just as bands, did. And but I still played and toured the bedroom, So
right.
Once in a while I hit an open mic or something like that, and but I still kept my hand in it and played. And then they had online karaoke thing.
Okay.
And so I kind of got involved in the tech of that, how do you video that and the sound, make the sound good. So I got a board and I got a camera and
wow. So now you're getting into all the stuff you do here for
us. So all those little things, God was directing that.
Yeah.
All the way through my life. He was introducing me to the programming and introducing me to soundboards and video and just all these little things that it's amazing.
He was just adding it to you for the time when he was going to say I need it now.
Yeah. So so the time went and my wife and I divorced and I went down the road in my fifth wheel and ended up in Allen.
Huh.
Yeah.
And Allen was a good place.
It was very nice.
Yes.
Yeah. They had a washer or the washer and dryer for the park there, and then they had the haircut places and
which
the
clearly
post
you didn't
office. No, I shunned those. Then they had little restaurants and a park and nice little things, but they also had a little grocery store there. And there happened to be a little clerk in there after a few months that kind of got sweet on
and I think you posted that video of you proposing to her on Facebook at one point in time.
Yeah, it's out there. So
actually, that was on Brenda's journey last season.
Oh yeah, I put that in.
Yes.
Yep. So I met Brenda there, and in fact, it was the night of the band I'm in now, No Slide Jack.
Right.
There's a plug.
Yeah. Do we have to cut that out?
No,
no, that's okay.
It's not trademark or anything. But she, I always went to get my lotto ticket from her because she always gave me a kiss. And, yeah, for good luck.
Dan.
It never worked.
No,
but it worked on me.
Yes.
And so it was the first gig that we had with the band again, and I went in to get my lotto ticket real quick, and I told her, and she sings karaoke on, it's a Sing Snap is what it's called, that karaoke site.
Yeah.
So she was on there. In fact, she had me in her favorites, and
really,
yeah,
wow.
And I hadn't been doing it for a while, so I didn't have her, but
right.
I do now.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah. So we started talking, and I had to meet Missy, of course. And if Missy didn't like me, then all bets were off.
Now they need to know Missy's Brenda's dog.
Our dog.
Yeah, your dog.
Yeah, she's my dog now.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yeah. And then so she brought him down to the park there at Allen, and I was sitting on the bench, and she brought her up to me, and she crawled in my lap.
And Brenda went, "Whoa,
okay,
that means something."
Yeah. And so she started bringing me to New Community Church at Union, and in the fire hall.
Yeah.
And
so tell everybody the interesting story of how you started being the worship leader.
Yeah, well, that was,
I mean, before we hired you.
Yeah, that was after we moved. I think it was after we moved into the.
No, we were in the fire hall.
We were in the fire hall.
We were in the fire hall. Yeah, I remember that day vividly.
Yeah. We were practicing in the Sunday school building now. Yeah. Well, I wanted to, and I've been praying for some way to take part in the church, and the thing that made the most sense to me was music, because that's what I wanted to do.
Right.
And so the band practice was the same night as worship practice. So I
couldn't do it.
I already had a commitment, and so we changed band nights, and I thought, well, I'll go to worship practice, and there we go. And so I went to worship practice, and so after the first Sunday, they said, "Do you want to do the second service?" Because we were doing 2 services, and I said, "Sure, I'll do that."
Yeah.
That was easy, I didn't have to pick any songs. I just come and play.
Right. Yeah.
And we all sing along.
Yeah.
And so then the next week, as it turned out, Teresa had other things to do, and then it fell to me, the whole thing.
I remember that Sunday.
Yeah. So it was great, and it was an answer to prayer.
Yeah. For actually both of us, I think. So.
Yeah, it was a total return.
Yeah. You were back being 17 again.
Yeah. My plans of going to school and stuff like that, but God put me in a place where I could be a worship leader. And that was awesome. And it still is.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it was, And you did that for about 1.5 years, and then after that, we moved into the new building, and then shortly after that, we hired you on as worship and media director. Yeah. So which has been marvelous for us.
I've been applying all those little tools, the leadership. I worked with several. Working in the progress office, that all the big bosses would come through, and you get to talk to them, and you could see what they did and how they were. I'll never forget the one bad example. I thought my last name was Damn It for the first 6 months of my progress, because I would not know which side of the valve to assign to the pipe fitters and which went to the. So the pipe fitter boss, the flange on the end of the pipe is pipe fitters. The flange on the valve is the machinist. So if I saw flange, I started giving it to the pipe fitter, and it wasn't always right. So he would come in. Damn it, Washburn! He was very vocal.
Sounds like.
But after 6 months, we worked it out. It was good. But there were others, very, very good examples of motivators and people who encouraged people to work, and helped out, and it was a good experience all around, and so God brought that to bear in my leadership role, and the computer experience and a little bit of video and sound experience. I've had it's been a learning experience here, and again, still, but I had a little bit of a head start, and God had prepared me for that. And so I feel very fortunate, and that God directs my life.
Well, I do personally feel fortunate to have you, how God directed you, and really, we hear a lot of people say you're the right person for the right time, but you really are. So that Sunday when you began worship leading, I just praised God for how all of a sudden you were there. Boom.
And we came out of the woodwork.
It was marvelous. And then just to see all of the skills that you use for God's glory. That's a pretty amazing thing. So we as a church are very blessed by God to have him lead you in this direction. So
then I married Miss Brenda.
Yes.
In the church, so that was awesome. And it's been great ever since. She's a very supportive helpmate. That we just love each other so much. It's just wonderful. And to have a God-fearing woman that we can share in that way. And that's just amazing. Amazes me every day. So that's good. So
we're glad to have her in the office, and you both. And I get to experience whenever I come to the studio, which is fairly often, but I get to experience your relationship with Brenda, and you two are always encouraging and fun. It's good to see. And it's been. How many years now?
It's been
two.
Yeah.
Two? Okay. It'll be 3 next September or something.
We've been. Yep, it's awesome. We and then to have this place, that it's just God just directs everything, and I think I'm in control, a lot of times, and or I want to do this, or I want to do that, and but God has his hand in it, and what he wants to happen happens, and what I try to push forward becomes pretty shoddy.
Right. God says, no, that's not it. That's not it. Let me show you something. It's way better than you could think or imagine.
So I'm excited to see what's next, and what's coming.
Well, Dan, looking back, as you've had some time to reflect on your journey and seeing Christ at work in your life, is there anything else that you haven't touched upon that maybe God would lead you to speak to us about? I love listening to the journey and to
fireside and Sunday, but Lola here praying.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I get something out of it. I get something out of it every time.
Yeah.
And last week we were talking beforehand, and about your sermon and about bearing fruit, and I always had it in my head that bearing fruit was bringing others to Christ. And so that was the tally.
Right. Oh yeah.
Well, it struck me because we talked about fruits of the Spirit,
Right.
and I realized that we're not all in a position to lead someone in prayer to accept Christ all the time,
Right.
and that's not the fruit that he's talking about. It's talking about the Holy Spirit being you being in relationship with that Holy Spirit, and those fruits to come out: peace, love, joy, goodness, kindness,
Faithfulness, self-control.
yeah. I'd have to sing a song to make it right.
Yeah, I know.
But those, my preferences are things that I think are important. All fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I'm seeking God and putting Him first, and putting those, and then the fruits come out. And it's not my doing.
Yeah.
Nothing I did.
Right.
So that's what I've learned in the last week or so.
Wow. Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah. If you haven't watched Wednesday Prayer with Lola, tune in every Wednesday, 10 a.m. It really is a blessed time.
Yeah. There's a little Bible study. There's a little prayer. There's encouragement for your soul. Yeah.
And you get it all. You get everything that happens in the studio. You're part of it.
Yeah. I'm not always paying attention because I've got things to adjust and things, but God perks me up when I need to hear.
Yeah. Right.
So
well, I'm encouraged that the prayer time with Lola encourages you and is really shaping who you are.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave us with?
I think that's all I got.
Okay. Well, it was good. It was good. It's encouraging all through these journeys, just to look back and see, as you brought up very clearly today, certain events in life happen and we don't necessarily connect them with anything God's doing.
Right.
But as we look back, we go, oh, yeah, He used that. He shaped me there. He molded me there. He challenged me there. He changed me there. And here I am now because of what He was doing. And I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the way through.
Yeah.
I've never left His hand.
Yeah.
Even though I was headed away from it. He
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Reminds me of sometimes you get the little pet gerbil or mouse or something. Those little and you don't want them to go over the edge of the table or something. So your hands, they're never out of reach of your hands.
Yeah, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to go off the tracks like I did.
Right.
What could have been? Who knows?
But for the grace of God.
Here I am.
Yeah. True. Well, Dan, thank you.
Yeah.
It's been good to have you on, and on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other side. So.
I got to go there though to get it done.
Now you have to go there to finish it off. So
All
okay.
right.
Thank you, Dan. And thank you all for joining us. I hope you're as encouraged as I have encouraged to hear Christ's journey with Dan, or Dan's journey with Christ, however you want to phrase that. But that's what it's really all about, is walking through life and sometimes not knowing God's hand at work in our lives, and then seeing God's hand at work in life and our response to His hand at work. And what a great journey today. So thank you, Dad. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week on the journey. Bye for now.
The journey begins at the narrow gate. The journey, Jesus beckons me to roam. The journey, where the path is straight. The journey that takes me home. The journey